I'm Bob Paul. Welcome to WatchTower Remembers. Today we have an extremely interesting guest who returned to the meetings. His name is Chasm. Welcome to the show, Chasm Stain. Yeah, it's really great to be here. Once your show started and I started listening to all the shows, I was just enamored by all the variety and type of guests you had, and I just thought that I would be the perfect sort of person to talk to. Well, Chaz, we reviewed your voicemail to our 1-800 number several times, and we really found it to be incredibly interesting. You touch upon many of the significant topics that we like to breach here on WatchTower Remembers, and so we decided to have you on. So you recently returned to the meetings. Now that's exciting. I surely did. I surely did return to the meetings. It had been a long time, a very long time since I'd been at a meeting. And, well, do you remember the last time you went to a meeting? Like I said, I remember. It was the year 2007, and it was a book study, and we met in the basement at someone's house. And I was living in a town in Georgia, and we went to the basement, and we were studying the Revelation book. Oh, I remember that. It was the Revelation. I like to call it Revelation Book Plus, because there was that edition of the supplemental material. Some of the material was new light, or replacement material, you might call it. Yeah, it surely was. It surely was. And I remember receiving the supplement, and I enjoyed the because I had all of the answers underlined and so forth in the book that was first published, and then they gave the edition was beautiful. The way it added so much more to the individualized lessons that were involved in understanding each of those parts of the book of Revelation. Well, that was my last meeting. Now, it was your last meeting, and you recently returned, but what happened? Why was it your last meeting? Well, like I mentioned on the voicemail, there really was not any single moment where I said, well, I'm not going to go to the meetings anymore. No, in fact, I enjoyed all the meetings. I admittedly that I had a bit of an issue with, I was a workaholic. I was a certified workaholic. That's what my wife still calls me to this day. I'm an accountant. I have my own little office in our house. I have a home office, and I was able to drink during the day while I was doing my math. I worked for corporate accounts. I worked for individuals doing taxes, everything from taxes to doing the finances for some of the larger corporations there in the metropolitan Macon area. Right, so you had quite a responsibility, quite a load, and sometimes the work we have to do overwhelms us, and we're simply unable to make the meetings. But it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to think poorly about. And here it is, many years later. Let me do the math in my head. Approximately 12 to 13 years later, and you return to the meetings. Tell us how it went. Yeah, well, like I said, I had my book bag with the Revelation book in it, and I came home from the book study one night, and I put the book bag in my office, and I hadn't picked that book bag up since. I knew that if I looked into that book bag, I would go back to the meetings, but I didn't know if I had time. And my wife's been telling me, you need to go back. You should go back. You need to go back. And so that, and I had discovered that the organization had changed a little bit, and it was becoming more tech-friendly. So I go back to the congregation with my Revelation book, and it turns out, lo and behold, the book is discontinued. It's obsolete. Well, now I wouldn't call it discontinued or obsolete. I would say that there's a different perspective on Revelation, maybe even slightly different perspective on Revelation. But it's certainly, none of the information actually goes obsolete. It just kind of, let's say, dematerializes. How about that for a term? Yeah, you could be right about that, Paul Palms. Maybe it's dematerialized. But I was told, the first question I asked, and my wife and we had separated during this time, and so she was telling me to go back to the meetings, not because we were still living together, but like I said, I was a stone cold workaholic, and so I didn't realize the extent at which the meetings had changed. In fact, I thought there was still a book study, and I thought that I would bring the book, the Revelation book, to see if perhaps they were studying that book. Right, I see. Yeah, they, and what happened? Did someone say to you, no, they're not studying it? Well, what they said to me was, we're not studying that book, but we have a whole plenitude of new material that we study, and we even use the iPad. And I didn't know what an iPad was. I deal with Microsoft Excel all day. That's how I do, or I'll use QuickBooks. But I'm an old timer, so I use Excel. Sometimes I use longhand, and I just write it out, because that's the way I was trained back at University in North Georgia. Right, and you sound certainly are a highly educated person who's had a plenitude of responsibility in the corporate world, and now that you're back, do you have any distinct goals in mind in terms of your coming back to the meetings? Well, I don't have any real specific goals, but what I do have is I have a very sincere interest in joining, going to all the meetings, talking to the brothers and sisters, and fellowshipping again. Right, and that's actually a goal unto itself. So I think you do have a goal. And what is it about the meeting now that you enjoy in comparison to the old Revelation book study? Well, I guess I don't know what I enjoy yet. I've only been back to one meeting. In fact, the meeting I returned to was about 3 weeks ago. So I actually haven't been to a meeting since the one I returned to. But I do plan on going to another meeting at some point. Wow, that's fantastic. Hearing experiences like yours always serves the purpose of encouragement. And I don't know if if we've had a more encouraging experience than this on our show ever. And it's been a pleasure to have you on the show, Chasm. It's been a pleasure to be on the show. And I'll keep you updated. If you ever want to talk again, just how to get a hold of me. That's Chasm Stain. That's Chasm, CHASIME, and that's Stain, STANE, Chasm Stain, at hotmail.com. And I also have my own website. Don't worry about the website. In fact, we may have to cut that out. You might be getting emails from other interview shows to interview you about your experience, so you might want to prepare yourself for that. But it's been great having you on the show. We will talk to you soon, Chasm. Well, thank you very much. It's been my pleasure.
Then you discover she wanted you just for a while.
Boy, that Chasm was something else. That was one of the finest experiences that we've ever had on this show. And, you know, we probably will talk to him again. So stay tuned for future episodes of WatchTower Remembers.